Oh, yeah, it was just passing time. What do you do? What do you do with a life? What do you do with a life? See, who knows that? I mean, that's the question.
On a quiet, dusty hill in New Mexico, 20 or so miles outside of Taos, sits a small stucco home. Surrounded by sagebrush, mountain juniper, pinyon pine, the house, made of mud and straw, is understated, almost a part of the landscape. The desert sun bakes its walls. Pulling off a lonely highway, it takes about 15 minutes on windy and bumpy dirt roads to get here. Save for the occasional magpie chirps, it is silent. The home is a square and has only 2 rooms, both spare, organized. The one in the back is the bedroom, and it contains the books. Shelves and shelves of books. Books of literature and poetry. Shakespeare, Steinbeck, Somerset Maugham, James Fenimore Cooper, Thoreau, Emily Dickinson. Books on philosophy, religion, history, American Indian medicine. Books on art, Gustav Klimt, Winslow Homer, Isaac Levitan. Their bindings adorn the walls. In the corner, there are stacks of canvases, empty frames, paintbrushes on the desk. The bed is a twin, perfectly made. At its foot, on the dresser, sits a grinning Buddha, a cup of incense at his side. The front room includes the kitchen, living room, wood stove, the home's only source of heat besides the sun. A wall of windows looks east across a sweeping desert, the view stretching for miles and meeting at last the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, a sub-range of the Rockies spanning north into southern Colorado. Striking in their late afternoon grandeur, the mountains reach skyward. El Salto, Vallecito, the Picaries. The peaks look stoic, steady. From the window they are stunning, almost unreal. The sun falling sends long shadows sprawling across the mesa, as if in a race for the foothills. Soon it'll be nighttime and the temperature will drop some 40 degrees. Packs of unseen coyotes will scream in the dark. There's a man here. He is 66 years old. Slender, leathery, with blue eyes as bright as a boy's, he has just returned home from a 2-hour excursion to the grocery store. He'll make dinner, a routine. Vegetable soup, homemade sourdough, Spanish red. Meditatively present, the man pours his tea. As usual, he is calm, focused, and alert. His name is Geoff Parker, and he is an artist. An oil painter since his 20s, Geoff is an outdoorsman, a Wyoming native, inspired by natural forms, mountains, hills, trees, water. A former cowboy and fisherman, a devoted Buddhist for decades, Geoff is a lifelong journeyman. He paints, as he says, to learn, and has done so all over the world. Geoff lives alone out here on the hill, as he likes it. But he won't be here much longer. Maybe he'll head south to mountain bike in Arizona, or back to Costa Rica or Nicaragua for winter. Maybe spend a few months hiking the Pacific Coast Trail this spring. In any event, he'll gather his painting supplies and soon be on the move. Well, here we are in New Mexico. I'm here with plein air painter Geoff Parker. Geoff, how did you first get into art?
Get into art. That's a good way to put it. I started drawing when I think I've always liked to draw, but when I was in the third grade, I understood that you could actually create something that is visually representational of something in your environment. Birds first attracted me, of course. My third grade teacher gave awards for best artist. And the girl I wanted to impress the most, Sherry Allen,
You out there, Sherry?
was always the best artist. I wanted to take the award away from Sherry Allen.
Did you?
Never
Never?
did. No.
Ah. And so you had a propensity for it when you were young because you liked the idea of representing the natural world or creating something from nothing.
I don't think that I had a propensity.
You don't?
No. I knew that I wanted to do it. I didn't think that I was exceptional in any way from, anybody else's, what they were doing at the time. I think that I was average, but I just persevered long enough to make it matter.
Yeah. Was there a moment when it clicked where you felt like you started to get it? Or it was just practice?
Practice, and I still don't think I have it. So there's the answer to that one.
Mm-hmm. But you had proper training too.
I did. My first education, serious education on, for myself, was I bought a how-to book on animating cartoons by Preston Blair, which was very good. And I drew everything in the book until the book fell apart. I had them all memorized.
And so you knew early on that that's what you were going to do with your life? Or did it take a little time?
No, I think that always I intended to be an artist. I remember in the 5th grade, I wrote to Walt Disney to find out what I would have to do to get a job. And he wrote back, not him personally, I'm sure, but I did keep the letter. He did sign it, but it said that, it told me the courses I'd have to take, told me that it was a long, hard road, and that, at least I got an answer. And it was a pretty prompt answer also. But yeah, I've always thought I was going to end up being an artist because I couldn't be a mathematician.
And what did you like about the idea of being an artist?
I wanted to recreate what I was looking at, and that's the whole thing. There wasn't. I didn't want to be famous. I never had that idea in mind, or I didn't even think that you could become famous as an artist. But my intention was to become good enough where I could recreate visually what I had right in front of me most of the time.
So when you're drawing something, you're trying to draw exactly what you see.
Well, yeah, that's the goal at first, just thinking that you're drawing exactly what you see. It's an abstraction, of course, abstracted from nature. So all art is abstract in that sense. So I'm an abstract artist. But I was abstracting, as honestly as I could, I guess.
You've mentioned that drawing is the kind of the starting point.
Well, when you wade into it, you think that it's going to be simple, and you'll just draw. If you're going to become an artist, I didn't realize this myself, but if you're going to become an artist, the first thing you have to do is you have to find out how to create spatial awareness, initially by drawing, and then adding color. And there's, perspective, linear perspective. There's aerial perspectives. So those things all have to be, learned and digested and understood. But at first, I thought all I had to do was, if I could draw fairly well, that, that would translate itself into, other aspects of learning to be a representational artist, which is what I consider myself. And that's what I basically do. And my motive usually is color and mass.
Color and mass?
Mass.
And the way you go about it is considered plein air, correct?
No, it's considered plein air because I'm doing it outside.
Okay. And
plein air is just a French term for, it means open air.
Okay. But that's not common, right? Or is it?
No, well, when I was going to school in the 60s, it wasn't common. But it is very popular to call yourself a plein air painter. You can't walk out the house and throw a brick down the street without hitting a plein air painter these days.
And what do you like about that method?
Well, the whole reason I paint is to be outside, to be out there with the color and the heat or the cold, or I like to be outdoors. And still, that's what I do more than anything else. In fact, my studio's outside. My studio's outside all the time. I rarely paint indoors. And if I can do a big painting outdoors, I'd rather do it on the spot, than going into the studio and, having it become a intellectual process. You do need to be intellectual about it to a certain degree, but spontaneity has its own rewards also.
And being outside enhances spontaneity.
I think it does. You don't have that much time. The earth is turning so quickly that the modeling on form is changing pretty rapidly. So you don't have all day you have to paint pretty quickly. You don't have time to to address things you would if you were inside in a controlled environment.
So the natural constraints of time and weather influence the spontaneity that manifests itself onto the work.
They'll dictate, to a surprising degree, they'll dictate the final outcome.
And so why painting why not drawing or photography or any other art form that allows you to be outside?
I couldn't afford a good camera. Watercolors, I like watercolors. I just like the color of oils better. And I do watercolors outside, and I've done, etchings and different media, of course.
And I'd imagine you're able to get more texture or more nuanced color out of oil versus watercolor?
Well, yeah, the tactile quality of the painting. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I like. When I look at paintings in a museum, I always am attracted to the tactile quality of the paint. As much as, the light and dark masses or whatever, the color.
Do you notice yourself getting better?
Sometimes I know that I can achieve, things that I couldn't the year before. So if that's better, I think so. Yeah.
Improvement.
Yeah.
If you saw your own paintings, what would you, and you didn't know that they were yours?
Well, there's been happy little incidents where I'll walk into a house and I'll see a painting and I'll not know that, it's been so long that I can't remember that I'd done it. And I'll go up to look who had done it. And sometimes it happens to be one of my paintings.
And you're just floored by the beauty?
Well, or exasperated. There's been very few times that I've ever been satisfied with what I've done outside or inside. I guess I look at people like Nikolai Fetchin or Dean Cornwell, or there's so many people out there that have done just unbelievable artwork and I know that I haven't come anywhere close to anything that they've done. And I'm just kind of a plodder, you know. There's some real genius out there. There really is. I'm just not one of them. And, you know, I'm not being modest or anything else like that. I'm just not one of them. I don't work hard enough.
Speaking of that, was there one painting or one artist that you saw at a certain point in your life and that made you want to try it?
Walt Disney.
But the painting,
oil painting. I guess that I was early on. I was enamored with the surrealist painters like Salvador Dali and Rene Magritte. They were some of my favorites.
And what did you like about that?
Their ultra realism. I didn't want to become photographic, and I liked that about their paintings also, is that they weren't painting a photograph. Well, they were painting photographically, but they weren't painting a photograph.
Okay, so you were into drawing. You were trying to impress a girl in your class. You wrote to Walt Disney. You drew in high school, and then you said, I want to go to art school.
I said I had to go to art school because I couldn't be a scientist or a mathematician.
So this is the third.
And I was too honest to go into politics.
So you went straight from high school to art school.
There was a year or so of working and drinking, and then I drank my way to art school. Yes,
just getting warmed up. And where did you do art school?
I went to San Francisco, to the Academy of Art.
And what year is this?
Starting in the late 60s, early 70s.
So there's a lot going on in San Francisco.
Not necessarily art-wise, but a lot going on. I didn't go there to be a hippie.
I don't buy it.
I definitely was never a hippie. It's not that I didn't take drugs and I didn't do what hippies did, but I guess that I would always term a hippie as somebody that didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with themselves, and so they retreated to what the larger part of the younger population was doing, which is usually drugs and concerts, and it manifested itself like that. But I knew a lot of hippies, and a lot of hippies were my really good friends, but I never considered myself as one of them.
Because you had more focus.
I don't know. Well, yeah, probably. Yeah.
So
I knew what I wanted to do. It wasn't to smoke dope the rest of my life.
What was the sentiment amongst that crowd?
The people going to the art school, or what?
The hippie crowd.
The hippie crowd. Well, it's like any revolution. Dissatisfied people. They want something different, but they don't know what different they want. They don't even understand what they had. So how can they understand what they're going to get?
When you look back,
I thought of them all as being pretty confused.
Were the people that you were at school with similarly dialed in as you, that they knew they wanted to be artists and they were going full steam ahead towards that?
No, not by a long shot. I think a lot of them, well, like anybody, everybody lies to themselves. Artists have the capacity, beyond most people to lie to themselves, or, they'd never get anywhere. I'm still lying to myself, or I'd be working at Walmart.
What do you mean?
You have to believe that you're actually good. You have to have some amount of hubris to be able to fly in the face of your own failures and keep doing it and insist on the fact that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just couldn't do it, and they didn't apply themselves to the curriculum. They wanted to, in that era, it was still, it's even worse now. People think, oh, well, anything is art. No, not anything is art. And you have to have the basics. It's like an artist needs to know the basics of paintings and design and everything that makes a good painting, all the basics, drawing, color, perspective, all the things that go into a good painting are like the scales in, for a musician, or the alphabet for a writer. You don't learn those, you ignore those, and you end up with a crappy product. And I tried to keep my nose to the grindstone and get the basics in. Whereas a lot of the people that were there thought they could ignore the basics, and in the end, they failed as artists, but they probably became great instructors.
So when you look back on that time, now, what did you learn from that experience? What did you take away
from my school experience?
Yeah. When you're out there today painting, are you recalling lessons you learned back then, or was it just? Yeah.
I had what I think are 3 really exceptional teachers, and a lot of you have to just, if you're going to learn to draw, that's what you got to do. You got to draw, draw. And as from life as often as possible, which is always possible.
I get a sense that you're a dedicated student.
A student of art. Well, I'm still trying to learn it, so I would guess, yeah, I agree with you.
But it sounds like you took it seriously, and you were a young guy.
Well, I hated school. I hated all my schooling.
Including art school?
No, yeah. Art school wasn't school. Art school was doing what I wanted to do all day long. So that's not a school. For me was sitting in a class learning something I had no use for, and being forced to do it. And finally, after 12 years, I finally got to learn something I wanted.
So that must have been fun. Or you must have felt empowered then.
Fun, exceptionally fun.
And so when you graduated, what happened then?
I packed up my art education in a suitcase and put it in a closet, and went off to ride the range and, have adventures, which I did for a long time before I ever used my education.
And what did that entail?
What?
The adventures.
The adventures. Well, drifting around, being a hippie for a while, of course. I use the word in quotations. I moved around the West and visited different places, and then did that for a short time, but always, I I worked on big cattle ranches and worked as a commercial fisherman in Alaska. And that was probably the two biggest things that took up most of my early years, my 20s and probably half my 30s.
Is cowboying and fishing.
Yeah.
And do you remember how you felt at that time? Did you feel like you were on the right track, or did you feel like you were just passing time?
Oh, yeah, I was just passing time. No, what do you do? What do you do with a life? What do you do with a life? See, who knows that? I mean, that's the question. What do you do with your life? Everybody, some people ask and, go out there and have adventures and do wild things. And is that what you do with your life? I don't know. Maybe some people get a job and, they think that's what you do with your life. What do you do with your life? So a lot of that, what I was doing was trying to figure out, what I wanted to do with the one I had, and came up with various answers. But, I learned that, cowboying wasn't what I wanted to do with my entire life, or fishing wasn't what I wanted to do with my entire life, but painting is something that I could not make the whole point of my life, but something that I could do continuously throughout it.
And it could complement a lifestyle that you were interested in, or could support, rather.
Well, I was kind of lucky. I was really lucky. I met some people that were very, very much willing to help me, sell my art and get it on the market, and they kind of believed in me. And so, yeah, I was able to paint and do what I wanted, whereas how many people on this planet get to do that? I mean, hardly anybody. So I was very lucky. I got to do what I wanted, and I think basically that's the reason I became an artist more than anything else, is that I didn't ever see myself sitting in a 9-to-5 job. Yeah, it gave me a range of motion that you don't get, with a mathematics degree.
So was there one day where you just said, okay, I'm going to be a painter, or was that always on your mind that you?
No, I had a wife, and she was not going to be a cowboy's wife anymore. And so I got my pencils out
Went down to the art
my
store.
paintbrushes and started hacking out a living as an artist. And I had kids to support, and I didn't want them to grow up on a cattle outfit, so I applied myself to painting once again.
Are you in the zone when you're painting? What are you thinking about when you're painting, when you're out there?
Well, you see, that's the great thing about outdoor painting, is because putting the painting together, you have so little time, especially if you're doing it right at sunset. You don't have time to mess around. I mean, if you're gonna have to get all the information you can as quickly as you can. So you can't be worrying about making a precise drawing, or it's mostly at least what I'm after at that time of night is just it's good training for your mind. So that's what I like about outdoor painting a lot too, is that it does, anytime that you're not wandering around thinking about, your latest love affair, or whether the bank's going to foreclose on you, or is the car going to ever run again, or, all that stuff that people, infatuate themselves with. That doesn't exist during a painting.
Intensely focused.
Yeah.
Do you ever get distracted while you're painting and say, I don't feel like doing this? Or do you ever start thinking about the mortgage or the bank while you're...
Oh, no. There's no time for that. But after the painting's over, I don't usually think about that, but I do look at the painting and, oh, my gosh, I think about a new career. I always thought that, at some point it's going to become easy. And the painting is, I'll be able to just turn this thing out and they'll all work out. All the paintings that I do will work out. And but it's never happened for me. I know that some artists, probably have achieved that, but I've never had a painting really turn out the way I want ever.
But do you have moments where you say, "Wow, I'm getting it," or at that I liked what I did there? Like, when do you know that you've done it well, if not perfect?
Never perfect.
Right.
Never perfect.
But you must have moments where you say, "That's pretty good," or "I'm onto something here."
Well, yeah, there's things in your paintings, when you're always trying to describe what's out there, and you learn color, you learn how to make something more vibrant. You learn that light is color and it's not white. It's never white. Getting value down, yeah, that's always a struggle for me. So when I do, I have a painting that works out all right. And usually now when I think that I've done something, that I've been trying to achieve, it's usually because I'm not trying to describe things so clearly as I used to. I still want to be representational, but I don't have to delineate everything in the painting. Viewer participation in a painting is, I think, more important than just about anything else. And a camera can do so much better. It can give you a mirror image, basically a mirror image of what you're looking at. So not a mirror image, but at least a fairly truthful representation of what's there. But still, it's only seeing with one eye and not two eyes, and it's not seeing with a brain, but a computer. And what I want isn't, it's more than just a mechanical reproduction. I want my interpretation of what I'm looking at to be in the painting. I don't want a mechanical reproduction. I want people to feel what I feel. That's what, art affords me over photography.
A connection.
Well, an ability to describe something to somebody that you can't say it with a word, or so, yeah.
And so it matters to you what I feel about your painting.
No.
But what about the participation part?
Well, of course, I care that you enjoy my painting, or I even care if you don't enjoy my painting. But that's not the reason I paint. But if everything is described for you, if you knew that life, could all be summed up, could all be explained to you on the first day of your birth, why bother with the rest of it? Why not just cut your throat right there and get it over with? So that's what I think of as viewer participation, is that, what is that there? Well, I don't know. I don't know what that is. what is he doing? I mean, but also you could tell without describing it. He said, "Oh, yeah, that's what that's got to be," just because of mutual understanding of the world we live in. But no, it's over description. In a book, you wouldn't like it.
Right. But let's dig into that a little bit, because I think that you're getting at something profound about the purpose of, or one of the purposes of art. Is that it, from what I'm getting from you, is that art at its best, it's an expression from the person who made it, but it's also a conversation starter, or it forces you to question, forces the viewer or the recipient of the art to wonder.
Oh, the definition of art. Let's go over that one. Whether it's martial arts, whether it's the dancing arts, whether it's the musical arts, whether it's the visual arts, art is, for me, is somebody, maybe they're unable to describe it any other way, but, with emotion, with a color, with a, but it's going to be the way they feel about something. I mean, could be, a certain note in music, a certain color in a painting, or something like that. Usually has a resonance in its audience. And I'm not looking for an audience in that sense, but I know that if it's something, if I describe it, truthfully the way I see it, then somebody in my audience probably sees it the same way. Everybody's different. Everybody, and that's why, thank heaven that can be more than one composer, there can be more than one painter, there can be more than one writer. Everybody's looking for something, something a little bit different. So every artist will have, eventually they'll have their own audience. So I'm not looking for an audience, but I know I probably have one for that reason. And if you state something, so that's what you're looking for. I think that what you're saying is that I'm trying to get to the point where I'm not trying to spend so much time delineating, the fact of what I'm painting, or more the feeling of what I'm painting.
Art is more than just a decoration, or more than just a replication at its best, right?
Well, I think it's decoration.
But if you had on the wall something that a beginner artist draws, or a Gustav Klimt painting, they're both decorations.
If you got it on the wall, yeah, you're decorating. Yeah, I would.
But
guess.
there's something happening.
And who described it better? And that's where viewer participation comes in. I mean, who did describe it better? Gustav Klimt, Norman Rockwell. Who did you like to see? I mean, what? And it's different with everybody. I don't think that I would have looked at a Klimt, when I was in art school. I wouldn't have been able to understand it. I mean, some paintings are much more cerebral than others, and I think that goes along with viewer participation too. So that when I get bored, sometimes with Renaissance art. Most of it was liturgical painting, of course, but did as good of a job because they were the only patrons at the time. We're kind of lucky these days that, there's car salesmen that can buy your paintings. You don't have to paint St. Peter or whoever.
What is liturgical?
Has to do with the church.
Okay.
So you can, a really cerebral painting for me, sometimes it could be abstract expressionism. If they do it really well, maybe the tactile quality of the paint, maybe, the edges, maybe the composition, but it's still all got to be there.
What do you mean by cerebral? Do you mean loaded thematically, or?
No, there's just a lot going on in the painting, a huge amount of thinking going on, and you look at it as like a movie or a dance that, the artist is leading you around the canvas, capturing your eye here, capturing your eye there, but still never distressing you with too much information. For me, a painting, it shouldn't cause any kind of tension. It should relax you to look at it. And all that has to be considered when the painting's put together. And you can see that in a really well done painting. It's not just, I'll make the cloud this color and I'll just do this and this and this. No, it goes way, way beyond that.
Huh.
And so the people that do that really well usually have an audience, down through the years. And the people that don't.
So how do you decide what to paint?
What's that?
How do you decide what to paint?
Oh, how do I decide what to paint? I decide what to paint usually by something that is simple and within my grasp. And second of all, but what to paint isn't my biggest question so much anymore as how to paint it. I mean, doing a painting right now, and the sketch, if you looked at the sketch, you would see that the sketch is, a lot different than the big painting. And it's just that I didn't want to reproduce the sketch. I wanted the idea there, but then once you start painting, you go, well, that you can make it more exciting by, throwing that out or putting this in, and that's where studio painting comes in, is using, what you learned outside, but then putting in, the little extras that you can't put in out there because you don't have the time. All the subtleties that, make a really good painting. It's an uninformed public. Education in the arts is hit a low point. And people with a lot of money are able to buy fine art, don't buy fine art because they don't know what fine art is. They don't know because they haven't an education in it. And that's all there is to it.
That's interesting. So on some level, you have to be trained, even as a viewer, to recognize.
Yeah. Everybody gets to buy what they want.
Right.
I mean, it's their money and they get to buy what they want. But still, because the PTA decides to put up a building that, looks like a prison, doesn't make that man a fine architect. I think that you have to, exercise a little fortitude in your education before you can decide for others.
So education leads to or opens up more potential for appreciation of quality.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, if you don't ever get any further than reading Dell comic books, you're going to think they're, state of the art. But, you should pick up Steinbeck, before you make your final decision.
I get a sense that you're a curious person, that you're asking yourself existential questions. I'm curious to hear more about that in relation to your art or just the way you go about your life.
Well, I came to the conclusion that the point of a life isn't to amass wealth or amass fame or have as many friends or more friends than everybody else on the block or fewer friends than everybody else on the block. I think that the purpose of a life is to find your own real self, your own true nature. That's the point of it. To find it and live, in it.
And how do you get to that?
The only path I know is meditation. And not just casual meditation. That's like working at it like you're in a salt mine. And focusing on it, doing it. And it doesn't mean that you're statically looking at a wall. It doesn't mean that you're paying dues, or it means that your whole day, all day long, you're being aware of your part in this business and doing as little harm as possible.
So in meditating, you're not just meditating while you're sitting down.
Life is meditation.
But it's enhanced by a meditation practice.
Life is meditation. Enhanced. I think it's improved. I think that you become more aware by being aware. If you're never aware, if you never do anything except indulge yourself, then you haven't lived a responsible life, and you didn't accomplish anything. I don't care how rich you become. I don't care what a great artist you become. I don't care whether you're president or pope. You've wasted a life.
So you need to ponder your place in the whole mystery.
Well, the wording is rough, but basically, yes, that's pretty much it. But it helps all points of your life. It's not sitting and looking at a wall, or it's an everyday life. That's what you find out. At least that's what I found out. It's just an everyday life. It's all you have in everyday life.
An active participation.
Yes.
And appreciation.
Definitely so. Well, you can't help but appreciate it. Yeah. If you're aware of it, yeah. Yeah, it's a miracle.
And does that inform your art in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting here looking out the window while we're having this whole discussion, watching how many different paintings, as the light passes over, and the shadows lengthen across our view here of the Rio Grande Mesa, that, that's why they compliment. I mean, just paying attention, and it enhances everything.
What's most important to you now?
Well, as you get older, and I know that, there's no guarantee of how long anybody, gets to keep doing what you do. But I guess what the most important thing for me would be is do it and enjoy it. And hopefully help somebody else.
What would you say to an artist?
Holy mackerel. You want to be an artist? No, I would suggest what Frederick Remington told Maynard Dixon. Draw, and always from life. Draw as much as you can.
And that, when you say life drawing or drawing from life, you mean looking at exactly what you're trying to draw.
Yeah. Draw from life. Don't draw from a photograph and don't try to draw a photograph, but draw from life. I think a young artist should just, for one thing, keep after it and don't let anybody discourage you. Don't let older artists discourage you. Don't let the art market and academies and, so-called successful artists discourage you. Just if you want to do it, you can't help but do it. At least that's the way it is with me. You can't help but do it.
So you had, at certain points, I know that you semi-joked about it earlier, but you had some doubt starting out or some discouragement along the way. And how did you stick with it?
To the present day.
To the present day.
Yeah.
And you stick with it because you love to do it.
Oh, yeah. I would paint every day if I could.
So if I want to go back for a second to meditation. When you're meditating, what are you doing?
Well, I think that I'm not the person to answer that question, but I think that if you want to know, you can read The Evening Service by Dogen, which will give you an exact description of what you should be doing while you're meditating.
If you were so nice to teach me a meditation class right now,
yeah,
what would you say?
I would say what Dogen said is sit, and he will tell you how to sit, and he will tell you that the object of serene reflection meditation is sitting with no deliberate thought. Not trying to think, not trying not to think.
Right. I've heard the metaphor of cars going by, and you're on the side of the road, and your thoughts are the cars, and you can get into the car, but you can also pull over and get out of the car. Well,
the analogy was one of my teachers, and it was you're sitting under a bridge, listening to the traffic go by, and the traffic is not a problem. Listening to traffic is not a problem. The problem is when you hitch a ride in one of the cars and go off down the road. And you always have to be coming back, bring your mind back, get out of the car, come back underneath the bridge, and you just have to, and that's the process.
And you hear about, if you look into Eastern philosophy, religion, you hear about the eternal or the unborn or the undying. What is your relationship to that, to mortality? What happens? What happened before you're here or when you're no longer in this realm?
Well, that would be great if I could just tell you and you believe me, but so I'm not going to tell you, and I won't expect you to believe me. But there is no difference. There is no going ahead, going back. There's no edge in this thing that can be split open. It's just meditation. You will find that answer if you meditate long enough. That's the point of meditation.
And that's what your true nature is? Is that what you're trying to find out? I'm just trying to make sense of the terminology. When you say that's what you'll find out when you meditate, what do you find out?
You don't find out anything. See, that's the big conundrum. People are thinking, well, if I do this, I'll find enlightenment, thinking that it's something, or there's somewhere to go, or something to have, or something to get, or it's just not like that. It's just not like that.
It's something that you've always had. It's not separate from you.
Well, no, it's not separate. It's what you have.
But does your
it is you.
Does your consciousness have something to do with that, though?
Well, it does. But you have to, the answer to these questions are, you're looking for a simple answer, and it is simple. You're not going to find it with your discriminative thought process, and that's all there is to it. I would like to say, oh yeah, it's, but if you could do that, everybody in the world be enlightened right now, automatically. If you could find it with your mind, but you can't.
Right. And
that's the hard part, is to get rid of that joystick that wants to be in control. I'm no teacher. Let me say that, and I don't know enough to be a teacher. I'm just kind of stumbling along, the best I can, like everybody else. I think that if you want to come to a point where it's not happiness, but it's joy and it's contentment, the way that you're going to find it isn't going to be by listening to me say, well, you should do this, or, it's this, or the eternal's this or that, or that's not going to get you anywhere. What you just have to sit down, do the hard work, meditate, and find it. That's all you can do. I mean, if you want to find it, you can find it, but you're not going to find it by asking questions. You're not going to find it by listening to somebody speak. You're not going to find it by any other method than sitting, looking down the ridge of your nose until you uncover what's already there. Because it's all covered up. You've covered it up. You've covered it up with the way you've been taught. You've been covered it up by what your parents have taught you. You've been covered it up with the people at the schools you go to. It's all covered up. You've just got to uncover it. It's not something that, you don't have already. It's not something that you just have to uncover it. That's all there is to it.
But don't the questions and the conversations help you?
Not in the end.
Not in the end, but in the beginning.
Not in the beginning. No, I'm telling you, hard work. Meditate, hard work.
Right.
That's the only answer.
But you said earlier that your teacher, you're lucky to have your teacher. Without her, weren't you asking her questions? Having conversations with her?
No. Actually, I didn't. I should have, but usually if you listen closely enough, the answer is going to come out in just the daily life at the monastery. So if you do, and what she told me was meditate. Meditate, 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 sit, work hard, peel carrots, straighten nails, meditate. And I did it and did it and did it and did it, and I don't know what I know now. I don't think I know anything more than I knew before, but I know that I'm more content. I don't think that I don't see myself as having a personal self. I don't see myself as being extenuated beyond my death. Death is a total dissolution of what's here, but at the same time, it's still part of the thing that, like you said, is unborn and undying. So unborn, undead.
So when you die, it just lights out.
No, it's just a continuation of what's there already. It's just an inhalation. You breathe in, you breathe out. Doesn't mean that breathing stops. You have another breath. It's just the continuation. I mean, there's no going ahead or going back. There's no inside or outside. There's just no way of saying it.
So Geoff Parker becomes a different form of Geoff Parker.
No, Geoff Parker is. It's only a coincidence that I have the name. I mean, I could have been anything, depending on my mother or father. They could have named me anything. I'm not Geoff Parker. I'm really. You get so caught up in wanting to be something or somebody, but really, I'm nothing. I'm just nothing. I'm just something that appeared and will pass away. That's all there is to it. It's, I don't see why people are so uncomfortable with it. But what you find out is your real self. That's your real self. When you find that out, then you will stop those kind of questions. See, people think that this, I think a lot of people think, and that's what they're worried about, is that they look at the universe, oh, look at how big it is, look at it, it's just got to be harem scarum. It's just, there's just no sense in the universe. How can something so large have any order? They don't understand, they're asking the wrong question. That's what I'm saying. If you want the answer, do the hard work and train yourself. Train yourself. And you'll find out, and the question will answer itself.
And they're asking the wrong question because they're looking for a purpose?
They're asking the wrong question because they're looking for an answer.
Anything else you'd like to add, Geoff?
For those that are seeking to be artists, I would say don't give up. Don't give up. Definitely find a good art school, one that makes you draw constantly from a live model, if at all possible. Don't be afraid to ask artists, because you'll usually find them very helpful and receptive. That's what I found out. I was intimidated by artists as a young person, and I kicked myself because there were so many opportunities. I could have talked to so many great artists, and I didn't because I was intimidated. Walk right up to them and ask them, how do I do it? What did you do? Can you help me? Is a good question.
Well, thank you, Geoff. Thanks for coming on the show. You say you're not a teacher, but you are.
Gracias, Ty. Gracias.